very good morning to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Thursday morning. I hope you're all having a good week. Well, it's international break, and I guess we all thought there's nothing to talk about when it comes to West Ham United. But lo and behold, there is. Look, if you're new to the channel, please do consider becoming a subscriber. It costs nothing to subscribe, and the content is always free. And if you're new or old to the channel, please do hit that like button if you're enjoying the content. So it looks as if West Ham may have one more signing to make. And by the process of elimination, it looks as if this could be John Egan, the central defender who up until the end of last season was at Sheffield United. In the 23-24 season, it was cut short for Egan because he sustained an Achilles injury, rather ironically, in the game against West Ham, which kept him out of the Sheffield United team for the whole of the remainder of that season. Since being released from the club, Egan has kept himself busy. He was has been training with Burnley, and it was thought that former West Ham player and now Burnley manager Scott Parker was going to sign Egan, but that hasn't materialised. However, it now transpires that Egan could become our third choice free agent. Why third choice? Well, if you've been watching the news over the past week, you know that on Monday we were said to have had initial discussions with Joel Matip, who was formerly at Liverpool. Apparently, Lopetegui wanted the player, but Tim Steidten was not overly keen because of his wages and extensive injury record over the years. Now, apparently, he was on something like £140,000 a week at Liverpool, and the extensive injury record does go quite far back. And I guess the last thing we really want is to sign a player that's prone to injury, especially if he's going to be backup, and then we find that he's injured. And then on Tuesday, it was suggested that we had conversations to try and persuade Mats Hummels to join West Ham as well. However, the veteran defender had already committed himself to signing for Italian club Roma. So I guess it's left for West Ham to explore whether Egan has completely overcome his foot injury, and there are suggestions that he may be involved in a behind the closed doors friendly this week that has been set up. I think it was primarily set up to provide more match fitness to some of our new signings like Carlos Soler and Jean-Claire Todibo and Crescencio Somerville. But it now seems also that this gives Egan a chance to shine as well. Now, as I mentioned in my show on Tuesday, I don't think Egan is that bad a defender. If not the most exciting name to be linked to us. But then again, a couple of seasons ago, there was a player called Craig Dawson who was linked to West Ham, and he turned out to be quite all right. It's really quite interesting. And I remember the furore by the West Ham fans at the time, suggesting that the club didn't know what they were doing, and especially David Moyes didn't know what he was doing when he was trying to sign Craig Dawson. But he turned out, I mean, we even ended up singing a song about the player. Now, Egan, he's played across all four English divisions during his career for clubs such as Southend United, Gillingham, Brentford, and for the last 6 seasons at Sheffield United. Now, when at Sheffield, he was instrumental in helping the club to win promotion back into the Premier League, not once, but twice. The first being in the 18-19 season, and then again in the 22-23 season. West Ham are going to have up until the 14th of September to make a final decision on whether Egan or any other player, for that matter, that's available on a free transfer, whether anyone becomes the 10th signing of Julen Lopetegui'S first season. However, will it be too damaging to the club if Egan or any other player is not signed? I'm not too sure it would be. And I did ask the question on Tuesday whether we really do need to add any more players at this moment in time. I get Lopetegui wants 2 players for every position. I understand that. But can we not wait until January, for example? And there are two specific reasons as to why I'm questioning this. The first has got to do with money. After bringing in 9 new players, but managing to move on something like 12, West Ham's net wage budget has dropped to just under £4 million. Now, this isn't about fees paid or anything like that, or fees that we've got for player sales or anything of the sort. This is purely about wage budget, and it has dropped by just under 4 million. That means that should we be in need of further reinforcements by the winter January window, we will have a little bit of surplus. It'll be available to us to be able to dip into that transfer market if need be. And the second reason, of course, is that perhaps Lopetegui might finally decide to give one or two of our academy players a chance to be in the senior squad, even if they may not get any game time. They get limited game time. Look, we're talking about a fourth choice centre back, and the chances of having to end up using a fourth choice centre back should be quite slim. I know we've had problems before where we've had more than one centre back injured at the same time, but we do have other players in the squad that can also play in the centre back role, like Alvarez, for example, who's done that on numerous occasions for previous clubs and for Mexico. But then the first reason, as I said, is about money. And the second reason is, if we do bring an academy player into the squad, would that be such a bad thing? For example, we've got a great young prospect in 19-year-old Kaelan Casey, who has been in the senior squad quite a few times before. We've signed him on a long-term deal, on a professional contract until, I believe, 2027. Many thought that he would be amongst the academy players that would have been loaned out. And we've loaned out quite a few academy players already. And many thought that Casey would also be loaned out for the season, but he's remained with the under-21s. Casey already has 2 senior appearances to his name when he came on in the final few minutes of our league game last May when we beat Luton 3-1. And he also made a 13-minute appearance in the final group stage game in the Europa League against FCSB. That was back in November. Now, he's also been an unused sub for West Ham 15 times last season across the various competitions that we've been in. So the Premier League and cup competitions and so on. So would it really be so bad to give the young lad the nod between now and January to see how he develops? But Casey may actually have competition amongst his own ranks in the under-21s. And that is from starlet, 17-year-old centre-back Ezra Mayers, who is doing fantastically well alongside him in the under-21 team at the moment. Mayers got his chance in the under-21s because of an injury to Brazilian Luzao. Now, he's also a very highly thought of, very highly rated centre-back. As I said, only 17 years of age. And many believe that he could even possibly leapfrog Casey into the senior squad. He's been with West Ham since the age of 8, signed his first professional contract in January this year when he turned 17. Last season, he also picked up the Dylan Tumbiris Award, which is given to the most outstanding scholar in honour of the late Australian and West Ham under-23 forward. So as it stands, he could end up keeping his place in the under-21s, even with the return of Luzao. And it'll be interesting to see whether Casey or Myers, for that matter, might be elevated to the senior squad on a more regular basis if we don't sign Egan or any other centre-back as a free transfer. The jury is out on Egan. Look, as I mentioned the other day, for me, of the centre-backs available on a free, then Egan would have made more sense because of his age, because of his experience, and because he's not the sort of player who's prone to picking up regular injuries. The Achilles injury was his first and only major injury in his career. But if we do not decide to sign Egan, then we can, or we should expect the likes of Casey or Mayers to step into the senior team fold. And speaking of academy players progressing into the senior team, it has taken some time for West Ham to announce the new 5-year deal that Lewis Orford signed officially on Wednesday. So congratulations to him. Orford says he harbours dreams of becoming a senior team regular, and rightly so. But with so much competition now in midfield, is this likely to happen this season? I can see Orford potentially being another under 21 player that will go out on loan in January to further develop his career. Now, this is also likely to happen to another highly thought of player, and that's Ollie Scarles, our left back. Now, at this moment in time, it's possible that Scarles may stand a better chance of being named in the senior squad, mainly because of the groin injury sustained by Aaron Cresswell. Now, at this stage, we don't know how severe Cresswell's injury is, but if it is for some time, then we may just see Ollie Scarles being named in the squad or as a sub in the coming games. Then there is one more under 21 player that we ought to keep an eye on in terms of his progress, and it's someone who I've mentioned a few times already this season. Now, whilst many fans were upset that we didn't fork out £40 million to sign 20-year-old John Duran, which could still end up being a mistake, we do have an academy player who could potentially overtake Duran in terms of ability despite his young age. And that player is Joshua Ajala, who will turn 18 in November. And he's already made a big splash in his time at West Ham. He was brought in as a free youth transfer from Chelsea in July 2023. And in his time here, he's definitely made big waves. He signed an initial 2-year contract, professional contract, in November when he just turned 17. And watch out, because I think that when he turns 18 this coming November, West Ham are very likely to offer him an even longer term deal, a bit like the Lewis Orford deal. There's no denying that the pacey striker has been very impressive since he joined us a year ago. 25 appearances for the under 18s, scoring 17 goals, 10 appearances for the under 21s, scoring 3 goals. He's got lightning pace, already has the strength to hold off and beat defenders, fantastic technical ability. He can score tap-ins, he can create space to score goals, or just create his own goals by, as demonstrated in a recent game for the under 21s, where he just glided past several defenders to slot the ball home. He's an absolute nuisance to defenders, and he's the sort of player that defenders do not like to track. He reads the game really well. He already has the knack to make intelligent striker runs, and he's very much a team player to bring other players into the game. But he's also a greedy and very hungry striker, like every striker should be. He believes in himself, and he feels that he will score every time he's anywhere near the opposition's 18-yard box. Now, look, I know we have a tendency to build up our academy players, and then we get disappointed if their talent doesn't materialize in the senior team. And I'm also acutely aware that Ajala is not competing against senior professionals by playing in the under 21s league. But you've got to ask yourself, does this player stand out from the rest? And at this moment in time, it's a very loud yes. If he continues in this vein of form, then who knows what Lopetegui may decide over the coming months. Would he decide to strengthen again in the January window for maybe a striker or maybe a central defender if we don't sign Egan? Or will he start considering that maybe some of our under 21 players really do have the ability to step up into the senior squad? It'd be interesting to see what happens over the coming months.